This is the honourable member's inaugural speech, and as such, the usual courtesies and conventions of this place are in place.
President,
I give the call to the Honourable Klasey Hirst.
I begin today by acknowledging the Wadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and the land on which I grew up. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. I also extend my respect to all First Nations people across Western Australia, especially the Wongai people of the Goldfields, where I lived for many years. I would also like to acknowledge Auntie Marcia Maguire, Uncle Trevor Brownlee, and my good friend and brother, Lyndon Brownlee. Thank you for not only travelling here today, but for welcoming my family into yours, and for so generously sharing your culture, stories, knowledge, and music. Your counsel, advice, and friendship have helped shape how I understand connection, community, and responsibility. As I take on this new role, I carry that shared wisdom with me into this place. President, congratulations on your re-election. Since our first meeting at a polling booth in 2013, you have provided advice and support, particularly since I started working around the Parliament and especially since my election. That support means a lot, and I know I will learn much more from you in my time here. Congratulations also go to the Deputy President, who is out on urgent parliamentary business, and of course to all members on their election, particularly those like myself who are entering this chamber for the first time. The trust we have been given to represent the people of Western Australia is an incredible responsibility, and I want to express my gratitude to the voters of our great state for placing their confidence in us. My election to this place was anything but guaranteed. It was improbable, but the honour, just to be asked, was immense. I want to start by thanking the WA Labor Party for believing in me and giving me this incredible opportunity. And a special thank you to the clerk, Sam Hastings, and your team for all your help as we transition into our new roles. I am the product of generations of hard work, resilience, service and sacrifice, of people who believed in the Labor movement long before their daughter or granddaughter could dream of standing in this place. So this moment, this speech, this opportunity, it isn't just mine. It's 3 generations of work, belief and Labor values. One of my earliest, most formative memories is of noise, of people, of passion and of fear. I was perched high on a stack of chairs in the Midland Town Hall, watching the rally to stop the closure of the Midland Railway workshops. My maiden name, Pendlebury, is synonymous with the workshops. 3 generations of Pendleburys arrived in Western Australia between 1900 and 1910 from Hunslet in Leeds, Yorkshire, where they worked on the railways, building steam locomotives, carriages and wagons. They settled in West Guildford, later known as Bassendean, and went to work in Midland. They helped build the workshops themselves, rail infrastructure like the East Perth subway bridge, and of course the trains. I am the daughter, niece, granddaughter, great-niece and great-granddaughter of boilermakers, fitters and turners and mechanical fitters, and of the only family to have 92 years of continuous service at the Midland Railway workshops. You could always find a Pendlebury at the workshops until you couldn't, because you couldn't find anyone at all. The closure of the Midland Railway workshops in 1994 by Richard Court's Liberal government marked the end of an era for my family and countless others who'd relied on the workshops for their livelihood. It tore apart a community and left lasting impacts still felt today. Did I fully understand what it meant to my family then? Not really, but I did soon after, when Dad started his new job. He was now leaving the house before 6 a.m, driving to work for the first time instead of catching the train to work to Midland, as he and his family had done for decades. I do remember the feeling of anxiety in the house, as much as Mum and Dad tried to hide it. Dad's new role was on contract. He was now paid monthly and he had very little job security. I recently asked my parents what that time was like, whether they were scared or apprehensive. They said they didn't have time to be scared. They just had to get on with it. Things had always been tight, often living paycheck to paycheck, but now it got harder. Mum told me just last week that back then, if the bank account balance had a 1 in front of it rather than a 0, she'd had a good month. That rally and its aftermath has shaped me. I saw what it meant to lose secure work and to lose a place that generations had built with their hands. It's why I care so deeply about local manufacturing, training opportunities, and the dignity of secure employment. And it's why I'm proud to be part of a government that has brought railcar manufacturing back to Midland and that is delivering the biggest expansion of our metropolitan rail network in years. A government that is committed to returning freight rail to public ownership and is taking training our future workers seriously through initiatives like Fee-Free TAFE. I'm proud to be part of a government that is committed to making things here in WA just like we used to. Our story is just one, but it's a story shared by many. The story of WA's working families who built this state with their hands and now trust us to build its future with our decisions. My first name is Klasey, and it is one of the greatest gifts my mother could have ever given me. It's more than a name. It's a link to the resilience and strength of my ancestors and a constant reminder of the challenges they faced. And I must thank her for choosing it for me. I've spent many years spelling it out, but with every spelling, I've carried a story of family, heritage and tradition. And as I am inevitably asked where it comes from, I proudly tell them that I am named after my Frisian, not Dutch, Frisian, great-great-grandmother, Beppa Kluska. Beppa being Frisian for grandmother. Beppa was the matriarch of the family. She was a powerhouse. With her husband, Parker Ewa, she raised 7 sons, held her family together through war and unimaginable hardships, and she lived to be 103 years old. I'm proud to carry forward her name and her story, and to be, as far as I can work out, the first person of Frisian heritage to serve in this place. My Frisian family, like many others, came to Australia in the post-war period seeking a better life. The war had split them apart. My great-grandfather avoided being sent to Nazi Germany as forced labour by secretly hiding in the polder, which is the reclaimed lands, working odd jobs where he could. While my great-grandmother and grandfather, still a child, did not only what they could to survive, but more. They risked their lives to save others, sheltering Jews and resistance fighters. Post-war Europe was harsh, with limited opportunities. And so the De Jong family arrived in Fremantle in 1952, determined to build a better life and, more importantly, do so together. Their courage and resilience runs through everything I do. My grandfather, or Parker Ted, Parker being Frisian for grandfather, found work as a fireman on the railways and moved to Albany, where he became deeply involved in the labour movement. He joined the Federated Engine Drivers and Firemen's Union of WA, the local Trades and Labour Council, and the Albany branch of the Labor Party, serving as secretary and president at various times. A true believer, he stood shoulder to shoulder with his fellow workers, fighting for fair pay, better conditions, safety standards, and reasonable working hours at a time when Australia's labour force was still emerging. It was in Albany that Parker met my nana. They worked tirelessly. Alongside their joint commitment to the labour movement, they were deeply involved in the Albany Surf Lifesaving Club. They got married and somehow managed to build their first home, piece by piece. Each week's wage went towards another sheet of asbestos, often hauled on the sidecar of Parker's Indian motorbike. The house was built by them together. Parker Ted was a man of strong conviction and had political aspirations. So together with my nana, mum and uncle, they worked hard for the party and the local member. He dreamed of serving in this place, or rather, the other place, but Parliament nevertheless. After a difference of political opinion resulted in a transfer to Collie with his young family, their service to the labour movement continued, but his political dream was over. His loyalty and belief in the Labor movement has never wavered, and it's a pattern that's defined my family's involvement, not just in Labor, but in everything we do. Where there is work to be done, we do it. No titles needed, just commitment. The physical toll of railway work eventually caught up with Parker, and so when his back gave out, they relocated to Perth in 1968, settling in Bayswater, where my family still lives to this day. My husband and I now live in the first family home. I am the fourth of 5 generations to live on our street, and the second of 3 generations to go to Bayswater Primary School. My mum and uncle, my brother and I, and now my niece. I didn't grow up in a single household. I grew up on a whole street. Mum, Dad, my brother and I lived in the middle. My grandparents were on one side, and my great-grandparents were on the other. We even had gates in the backyard connecting us all. And it's the way we still live to this day. My husband and I, Mum and Dad are next door, and Nana's in the next house. We often shared meals together, and discussions around the dinner table often revolved around politics and the values the Labor Party upholds. Tales of time gone by, of hard-won fights, political change, and key issues of the day. The running joke is that Mum's first election campaign was in the pram, and so was mine. My parents were inspired by leaders like Whitlam, Hawke and Keating. So much of my childhood was spent supporting our local members, letterboxing, working on election days and helping out at events. Mum and Dad carried forward the family tradition, teaching my brother and I the significance of political engagement and community service. After growing up during the war, Parker Ted was a champion scrounger. Much of what we had was second-hand, not only because money was tight, but because there was value and life still left in it. I remember when we brick paved our front yard. We'd salvage the bricks from the floor of the old candy store in Mount Lawley. Before Dad could lay them, they had to be chipped clean, and that was my job. Recycled bricks, shared labour, and a steep driveway that we're still proud of nearly 30 years later. Time and the money we saved was devoted to leisure activities shared all together, like fishing, crabbing and prawning, dancing and holidaying around the country and the state. Easter was spent in Albany, October was in Busselton, and the July school holidays often meant long hours in the car, visiting places like Exmouth, Karajeedi and Shark Bay, and even once around Australia when Dad had long service leave. They weren't fancy holidays. They were often in an old caravan, but they were rich in experiences, education and love. We also attended a monthly old-time dance, where my brother and I learnt to ballroom dance. Perhaps more importantly, we, as a family of 7, prepared the supper each month for nearly 20 years. Everyone had their job, and we took our responsibility seriously. Even when my parents and grandparents were off travelling, my brother and I, as young 20-somethings, went along and prepared the supper, as usual. One in, all in. That's our way. When you get one of us, you get all of us. The money saved also went to the other things that mattered to us, like music. Music runs through my nana's side of the family. Her father played trumpet in the Royal Australian Air Force. She played piano and the church organ. Mum played piano and my uncle the trumpet. I started piano at 7, clarinet at 11, and then moved to alto and tenor saxophone in high school. When I finished school, I played in several community bands, including the West Australian Symphonic Wind Ensemble and the Perth Hills and Wheatbelt Band, and had the extraordinary opportunity to travel to Hawaii and compete in the Pacific Basin Music Festival. Music education teaches much more than how to play an instrument, and the benefits go far beyond the music or band room. It teaches discipline, teamwork, memory, and fosters creativity, relationships and connections with people you might otherwise have never met. It gives confidence to kids like me who didn't shine in other areas, such as sport. And I want to acknowledge the hard work of our music educators, like Pip Forster, who gave so much to their students after hours, be it through extra tuition, camps, weekend rehearsals, and those much-dreaded concerts. The experiences you gave us stay with us forever, long after the notes have faded. I'm public school educated and proud of it. As mentioned, I went to Bayswater Primary School and then Willerton Senior High School. It was a long way from home, an hour on the bus each way. But that also taught me independence and maturity. I made lifelong friends at Willerton, like Amy, Gemma, Nathaniel, Jess, Cassie and Sarah. Thank you for the 25 years of friendship and support. Despite spending much of my childhood doing everything I could to avoid geology, I somehow ended up marrying a geologist. Parker Ted loved geology, and he was dragging my brother and I on field trips, pointing out every rock formation and filling the car and backyard with samples. I hated it, but all those years must have left something behind, because in 2008 I met Oliver, a geologist from Leeds, where my father's family came from. Maybe we were meant to find each other, two stories quietly overlapping across generations and hemispheres. We got engaged, bought a house and got married in 2012, all in a single year. It was busy and exciting and full of hope. And like so many newly married couples, we thought starting a family would come easily. But life, as always, has other ideas. In 2014, the mining downturn hit and Oliver lost his job. We thought it would be temporary, but 9 months later, there was still nothing. We moved back in with my parents, rented out our home, and came painfully close to defaulting on our mortgage. Just in time, a job came up in Kalgoorlie. So I took a sideways move at work to transfer, and off we went. It was the right decision because Oliver and I are a team. Living in Kalgoorlie taught me a lot. It's not just the red dirt and wide skies. It's the community, the resilience, and the way people show up for each other. You don't always have the services or support, but you find ways to make it work. You build your own fun, and more importantly, your own family. Whether it was park riding Kalgoorlie Park, weekends at Lake Ballard or Esperance, trying my hand at hockey, or just dinner and drinks with friends, we built a life. And friendships that have lasted long after we returned home. People often have the wrong idea about Kalgoorlie. Yes, it's remote, and yes, it can be rough, but it's also full of pride, humour and generosity. I'll never forget the 2017 storm, Kalpocalypse. The power was out for days. Giant trees had been uprooted and crushed cars, and the streets were flooded. But what stands out isn't the immense damage, it's the kindness. People sharing fuel, food, generators. That's the Kalgoorlie I know. In many ways, it felt inevitable that we'd end up there at some point. After all, Oliver is a geologist, and Kalgoorlie has been at the heart of our state's resource industry for well over a century. Life in Kalgoorlie revolves around the mines. Shift work sets the rhythm of the town. From early commutes to the constant hum of machinery, mining is part of daily life. It's more than an industry. It's livelihoods, families, and a community. Eventually, though, we knew we had to come home. Family needed us and we needed them. It wasn't just a decision about work or location, but about love, support, and being there for the people that had always been there for us. There's only so much you can do when you're 600 kilometres away. Most of our Kalgoorlie family have also now moved back to Perth, but those bonds remain. To Anthony, Lauren and the kids, Jess and Dave, Amy and the kids, Shani and Matt, and Steph and Ruth, thank you for being part of some of the best times of our life and for your encouragement, support, and always being in my corner. Through that time, we were still trying for a family, but nothing was happening. Shortly before we moved, I'd been referred to a specialist who looked me up and down and said, "Come back when you've lost 100 kilos. I left that appointment embarrassed and ashamed. If it were that easy, I would have done it already. I've always struggled with my weight, another battle shared in my family. I tried just about every diet possible and watched my mother and grandmother do the same. It took me 2 years to come to the decision to have bariatric surgery. It wasn't an easy choice. It's a tool, not a cure, and it comes with its own risks, and it is for life. But 9 years later, and 80 kilos gone, I talk openly and honestly about my surgery because I believe we need to remove the stigma that surrounds bariatric surgery. Obesity is a disease, and we should support people in accessing the care and treatment they need, whether that's surgery, medication, or counselling. Instead of shaming people, we should offer compassion, understanding, and support. But still, no pregnancy. After years of struggling with infertility and multiple miscarriages, we finally got a referral to a fertility specialist. It was heartbreaking to learn that we could have had answers far sooner had we not been dismissed by some outdated ideas and assumptions. We spent 18 months with daily injections and were then told that IVF was really our only option, and even then the chances were slim. And it was prohibitively expensive. At that stage, we simply couldn't afford it. I share our story to raise awareness, because too many people suffer in silence, because you never know what someone's going through. We need to change how we talk about infertility, miscarriage and childlessness, how we talk about grief. Don't assume. Think before you ask the question or make a flippant comment. Some days still hurt more than others. Oliver and I don't have children of our own, but we are the luckiest auntie and uncle in the world. So to April, Hannah and Jacob, Matari, Kyra, Malachi, our goddaughter Gaia, Aya and Fuego, our goddaughters Amelia, Eleanor and Henry, our niece and goddaughter Sophia, and our nephews Arlo and Noah, I love you like my own. And while I'm here in this place, I will do everything I can to leave our state and the world a better place for you. Over my working life, I've had several careers: banker, travel agent, political campaigner, staffer, and now I can proudly add, member of the Legislative Council. I entered the workforce at 15 in fast food, like so many people's first jobs, and I joined my first union, the SDA. With my upbringing, was it even a question? I learned a lot in those early years: hard work, how to handle pressure, manage teams, and speak up for myself and others. By 18, I was a part-time manager. That early experience shaped my understanding of fairness and responsibility. While studying, I started to work at ANZ, first as a teller and then a personal banker. I thoroughly enjoyed the work. It combined my love of numbers, problem solving, and helping people. I chose to stay in the bank, building a career in lending and then commercial banking. In banking, you see people at some of their highest and lowest moments: saving for a car, buying a first home, or securing a loan to start a business. Those milestones are full of hope and possibility. But you also face the harder times: illness, separation, financial hardship and death. I took real pride in helping people who felt lost and overwhelmed, giving them the tools and clarity and confidence to take back control. I spent over 7 years in the bank, and I worked alongside some truly exceptional women: Anne-Marie, Mary, Sue, Kimberly, Stacey, and yes, another Anne-Marie, who taught me not just how to be a good banker, but be a better leader. They showed me how to lead with integrity and how to approach difficult challenges like branch closures and redundancies, with care and courage. One of the most striking lessons I took from my time in the bank was just how widespread financial illiteracy is. Not because people aren't capable, but because we simply don't teach it. Most people learn about money from their families, if at all, and that education depends entirely on circumstance. We need to do better. Financial education is essential. A 2023 Australian Bureau of Statistics survey found that nearly 1 in 3 Australians rate their financial literacy as low, a figure even higher among young people and women. I met clients earning good incomes who didn't understand how interest worked, or who were drowning in credit card debt without knowing how they got there. Basic knowledge, like budgeting, understanding fees, or how to compare loans, can make the difference between getting ahead or falling behind, and can safeguard yourself against predatory financial schemes. That's not just a lesson from banking, it's a life skill we should all have access to. And of course, I remained a union member. I joined the FSU as soon as I entered the bank and became a branch delegate, and later joined the local Executive Enterprise Council. I stood with colleagues both in my bank and across the industry, including Marianne Thomas, Adam Fay, and then State Secretary Di Marshall, as we fought to protect workers' rights pushing back against casualisation of the workforce, resisting cost shifting and offshoring, and defending secure employment. Over the years, I've been proud to be a member of the SDA, FSU, ASU, CPSU, CSA, and now the CFMEU WA. The CFMEU loudly and unashamedly calls out dangerous practices and unsafe workplaces, because when things go wrong in construction, people don't just get hurt, they die. But they also do quiet work that often gets unnoticed, advocating every day for safer conditions, fairer outcomes, and stronger protections. Because of them, we've seen critical reforms in work health and safety, subcontractor protections, workers' compensation, and industrial manslaughter laws. Thank you, Mick, for the work you do and the support you've given me. I also want to acknowledge Tim Dawson, Ben Harris, Brad Gandy, Steve McCartney, Carolyn Smith, and their unions. I and the thousands of people you represent are grateful for your unwavering dedication to the movement. After leaving banking, I spent some time in the travel industry, a job that brought together logistics, people skills, and a love of planning. Travel agents aren't just booking holidays, they're often navigating cancelled flights, medical emergencies, and last-minute passport dramas. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the industry was turned upside down. Borders closed overnight, flights were cancelled en masse, and rules changed by the hour. I spent countless hours and days and weeks trying to get people home, rebooking flights, applying for G2G passes, negotiating with airlines, and working through the ever-changing restrictions, but restrictions that kept us safe. It was stressful, uncertain, and at times heartbreaking, but it taught me resilience, adaptability, and how much people rely on clear guidance and calm support when the world around them feels out of control. Eventually, I found my way back to politics. I've been stuffing envelopes, letterboxing, working on election day, and attending branch meetings since I was a kid. And I did it because I believed in the movement. I never saw it as a career path. It wasn't until I stepped into more formal roles, helping run campaigns, coordinating volunteers, and shaping messages grounded in our values, that I realised how much it mattered, and I loved being in the thick of it. There is nothing quite like the energy of a campaign. The long days, the early mornings, the adrenaline, and the pizza. The coffees that turn into conversations and that turn into votes. I was the field organiser and voting coordinator in Kalgoorlie during the 2021 state election, a campaign that covered vast distances, built strong local connections, and delivered a result many thought impossible. Thank you to Kyle, Bobby Lee, Amy, George, Dean, and Mick and Eddie. What a team, what a win. In 2025, I served as the campaign manager for Mount Lawley, another intense, community-driven campaign powered by a small, dedicated and passionate team of volunteers, especially Dane, Mario, Hannah, Penny, Callum, Rebecca, Lyric, Lorenza, Jeanette and Will. We couldn't have done it without you. Both campaigns were hard fought and both reminded me of what we can achieve when people come together, believe in something bigger than themselves and work for it. My campaign work in 2021 led me to a job offer and work as a staffer. First as an electoral officer for Ali Kent, the new member for Kalgoorlie, and then as a research officer for the Honourable Matthew Swinburne, and later a senior policy advisor for Minister Whitby. Each role taught me something new, from the challenges of regional service delivery to the machinery of Parliament and the complexities of executive government. I feel deeply privileged to have worked for Minister Swinburne, particularly supporting the parliamentary friends of people with rare and undiagnosed diseases. Serving as secretariat for that group remains one of the proudest moments of my career. It brought together parliamentarians, clinicians, researchers like Dr Gareth Bainham, and people with lived experiences, including Kane Blackman and Andrew Bannister, to raise awareness of rare disease both within this parliament and beyond. What I didn't know was that I was living with a rare disease myself. For over 2 years, including my entire time working for the group, I unknowingly had a rare vascular sarcoma, epithelioid hemangioendothelioma, or EHE. It was diagnosed just 1 week after my pre-selection. I was lucky, it hadn't spread, and I was in surgery within 2 weeks. Living with a rare cancer is confronting and uncertain. It shows how vital early detection is and how easily people can be missed and how important research and advocacy really are. I want to thank and acknowledge Rare Cancers Australia, the Rare Cancer Centre here in WA, and especially the EHE Foundation Australia, particularly the work of Jonathan Granick, Jane Biddlecombe and Di Hirst. Your work changes lives, including mine. Now that I'm here, I'm determined to continue that work, to make sure rare voices are heard and rare diseases are not overlooked. Working for Minister Swinburne gave me a front row seat to what thoughtful, values-driven representation looks like. I learnt so much from my time in his office, and I carry those lessons with me every day. And to Jill, our time together in the office was short, but you taught me so much. Thank you for your support in helping me get here. In the ministerial office, I worked across multiple portfolios, helping manage complex issues and competing priorities. Ministerial offices are intense. They're fast-paced, there's high stakes, but they are where policy becomes action. You see the thought, care and coordination that goes into decisions that affect real lives. So to my team, Whitby, Sherry, Jo, Magdalena, Jordan, Darcy, Rochelle, Emily, Chloe, Shani, Marina, Anthea, Tony, Amy, Joseph, Danny, Fred and the Minister himself, you are dedicated, generous and clever people. I learn so much from each of you. The team may now be spread across different offices and roles, but I have no doubt you'll all go on to do extraordinary things. It was a privilege to be part of the team. Having now worked for a member of the Legislative Council, a member of the Legislative Assembly and a minister, on top of my many years in the private sector, I've had the rare opportunity to see Parliament and government from many perspectives, from local advocacy all the way through to executive decision-making. The path here hasn't always been straightforward, but each role has added something: skills, insight, and a deeper commitment to public service. I carry those lessons with me into this place. There are so many people I want to thank because none of this happened in isolation. I stand here because of a lifetime of love, community support and shared purpose. So to the WA Labor team, Senator-elect Ellie Whittaker, Honourable Lauren Cayoon, Ali White, Mark Fahey, Shaq Sterling, Lexi Moore, Mark Reid and Adelaide Kidson. Thank you for your advice, encouragement and backing me every step of the way. To the Kenwick branch, especially Dane, Glenda, Jill, Ian, Sarah, Bodie, Sarah, Keely and Linda. Your belief in me has meant the world. To the many other ministerial and electorate officers, electorate staffers like Harry, Chris, Tom, Nat, Lauren, Ash, Fran, Claire, Di, Tina, Judith, Dennis and Phoebe. The work you do is often unseen, but always essential. Thank you for your supportive words, wisdom and camaraderie. To the enormous amount of members and former members who've shared advice, friendship and encouragement, I can't possibly name you all, but I would like to especially thank Minister David Michael, Minister Stephen Dawson, Minister Hannah Beasley, Minister Jess Jakovsky, the Honourable Dan Caddy, the Honourable Andy O'Donnell, the member for Midland, Steve Catania, the member for Mount Lawley, Frank Polino, member for Darling Range, Hugh Jones, the member for Maylands, Dan Bull, and former members, the Honourable Alana McTiernan, the Honourable Ian Taylor, and Simon Millman, Kyle McGinn, Jane Kelsby and Peter Foster. To my staff, Demi Fryer and Hannah Anderson, you've been with me less than a week, and already you've accomplished so much. I couldn't have made it through this week without you. And to Katie Jane Anderson, thank you for saying yes, for coming back to politics, and for jumping on this ride with me. And finally to the Honourable Matthew Swinburne, thank you for your mentorship, your friendship, and believing in me. You saw something in me before I saw it in myself. You taught me what it means to be a good Labor member, principled, steady, and always standing up for working people. A true parliamentarian, intelligent, measured and compassionate. Every conversation with you sharpened my thinking, challenged me to do better, and reminded me why this work matters. I've walked away not only smarter, but also more focused and more determined. You never talked down to me, but you challenged me, encouraged me, and expected the best, making me better at what I do. It was a privilege to work for you, and it's an honour to now stand with you in this place. Congratulations on becoming a minister, It is so well deserved. Of course, politics is only part of the story, and I couldn't have done this without the people in my personal life who stood beside me through everything. To my Square Dance family, especially the Happy Wanderers Square Dance Club, and in particular, Kevin, Deb, Michael, Joe, Damien, David, Linda, David, Margaret, Lynn, Rosemary, Philip, Carol, John and Anne. Thank you for being there when it mattered most. You didn't just come out to dance, you came out to campaign. You letterboxed, you ran barbecues, you stuffed envelopes, you set up booths and you handed out how to vote cards. You showed up, you pitched in and you cheered me on, just like you always do. And a special shout out to Kevin Kelly, who is celebrating being our caller at our club for 50 years. To my godparents Peter and Leanne, thank you for being such a constant, caring presence in my life. Your friendship with Mum began on the first day of high school, and your place in our family has never wavered. To the boys in the UK, Gary, James, Gareth and the crew, thank you for tuning in at this very early hour. You're like brothers to me, and your friendship means more than you know. To Chantel, my almost sister, you've well and truly claimed my childhood bedroom, but you've also claimed a place in our family. Thank you for always being there and for making the trip from Lake King to be here today. To the Burrows-Gonzalez family, Vicky, Debbie, Harry, Ed and the kids. Music brought us together nearly 30 years ago. We've shared so many Christmases and a deep political bond. Thank you for all of it. To Elizabeth, Steve and the kids watching from Dubai. Elizabeth, you're another almost sister. I miss you every day. Thank you for your love, friendship and support. To my in-laws, Derek and Hilary, thank you for raising a son who is kind, loyal and quietly determined. And thank you for letting him stay in Australia when he met me. I'm so glad you're here to share this moment. To my sister-in-law Caroline, Dave, Arlo and Noah, and brother-in-law Christian, I know that you wanted to be here too, and I'm grateful that you're watching from the UK. Your love and encouragement are always felt. To my sister-in-law Sarah, who is currently tuning in from the Rocky Mountaineer in Canada, I know you're still trying to lure me back into the travel industry. Maybe one day, but for now, I've got plenty to do. Thank you for your constant support, counsel, and down-to-earth advice. And thanks to your family, the Nazaris, for their support. I know it was out of their comfort zone to vote red. To my little brother Adrian, thank you for always being there. You drive me mad, we tease each other endlessly, but we do anything for one another. I deeply admire your commitment to your job, your workmates and your union, the TWU. You're a great leader and advocate, and most importantly, I'm grateful that you're still here with us. No more little lie downs, please. To my nephew Caleb, thank you for saving Adrian's life. We will never forget it. I love your interest of politics and history, and I can't wait to keep growing that with you. To my niece Sophia, my mini-me, every day I'm blown away by your intelligence, wit, care and strength, even at the age of 5. You're going to be the Premier one day, I know it. To my Nana, you and Parker did everything together. You helped raise me, you taught me to love fiercely, honour my commitments and speak up when it counts. You, alongside Parker and Mum and Dad, showed me the values of the Labor movement, fairness, loyalty and leaving things better than you found them. And to my Parker Ted, who passed away 2 years ago, I hope you know we made it. Your dream didn't end in Albany. It's here now, in this chamber, with me. I carry your legacy, and I hope I make you proud. To my mum, Joanne, and my dad, Ian, thank you for your love, for your sacrifices, and your belief in us. We didn't always have a lot, but you gave us everything that mattered. You taught us to work hard, stand tall, and show up. Not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. Mum, I know this place could have been yours, but you chose us. You chose family. And because of that, I'm here. This is your legacy too. And finally, to my husband, Oliver. Back in 2010, when I told you you had to help on election day, you had absolutely no idea what you were getting into. But you showed up then, just like you've shown up every step of the way since. When the call came about potentially running for the Legislative Council, it wasn't just my decision, it was ours. I turned to you and asked, are we doing this? And without hesitation, you said, yes. You stood beside me through it all, the campaigns, the moves, the disappointments and the wins. You've steadied me when I've wobbled, supported me when I've struggled, and believed in me, even on the days I didn't believe in myself. Along the way, you've grown with me, in the party, in the movement, and in everything this journey asks of us. Thank you for your strength and for your love and for walking beside me always. I love you. Supporting the Labor Party and the union movement has never just been a political choice for me. It's who I am. It's how I was raised, and it's what I'll always carry. It's a belief in fairness, in dignity, in the power of collective action, and in the idea that a government can and should make people's lives better. I come to this place with the values my family taught me, around dinner tables, in dance halls, on street corners, and at election booths. I come with the stories of the people I've worked with in banking, in Kalgoorlie, in travel, in politics, and the lessons I've learned through hardship, community, and service. And now I bring all that here, not just to represent the people of Western Australia, but to work for them, with respect, with heart, and with a deep sense of responsibility. Thank you.